villages, streets, blocks full of homeless people because our government doesn't care about us.
Google Skid Row, Los Angeles. It's a very sad situation, but the homeless section is called Skid Row, and it is absolutely terrible. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be doing another one of the first time America messed you up, or first time you realized America really messed you up. This one's part 2. We did part 1 a few days ago, and it was very interesting. It was an eye-opening video. Seems to go over well with the audience and everything like that. So we're going to continue that journey. This one is going to be, again, by the channel TikTok Reacts, and you can find a link to the original video down in that comment section. Hit like while you're down there. And we're going to see some more people realizing that America messed them up.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up?
When I was dancing in Australia, I did a jump and landed on the outside of my right foot. I sprained it real bad. And they drove me to a private hospital and I was like panicking. But anyway, that's the one that was available to me at the time. And on my way into the lobby, I was, hobbling on my crutches. And they spotted me from the parking lot. The doctor came out to me before I even was in the building.
Wow, you don't get that kind of service here. Half the time you could be already inside the building, hobbling. You get up to the front desk and they'll just be like rudely, how can I help you? As though they don't already see what the problem is.
And went back into the hospital and told them that I was coming. In the waiting room, they came into the waiting room to examine my foot.
Wow.
And I never paid a penny for that shit.
Yeah, here in America, you wait around for about an hour. You finally go back to your room. You wait another half an hour. Then the nurse comes in, asks you a few questions, says the doctor will be right with you. And then it seems like you wait another hour before the doctor actually gets in there. And then they charge you $1,000.
So I can make like 200 of these, but I'll just talk about the first time I realized how fucked up the US is, which was in the first week that I got to Sweden, when my boyfriend's family told me that I need to make sure I get insured, and that I get insurance for everything I own, my laptop, my bike, my apartment, my whole body. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's so expensive. Like, I'm already super in debt with student loans, so no. But I asked out of curiosity, just like how much it was going to cost. $100 a year to insure everything I have.
What?
For reference, like the average American person spends $456 a month.
Yeah.
Just on health insurance. Just for healthcare.
Wow.
That doesn't include cars or home insurance.
$100 a year? That's great. And actually, speaking of that, I got to get home insurance here soon. When we bought the place back in, was it end of April, beginning of May sometime? The property taxes were paid up for the year, and the home insurance was covered for the year. But we have until this spring, actually, to buy some home insurance. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to be cheap. So watch more of my videos, guys, so I can afford it. That'd be awesome. Thank you. And I got to pay property taxes, I guess, this spring and then in the fall. But it's not going to be that cheap at all. It's going to be probably a couple $100 a month just for home insurance, I would assume.
Okay, so I'm not currently living abroad, but I did live in Australia for a few months. And one night while I was there, I got a little bit too crazy and I ended up on public transportation without a phone. And I had to find my way back to my apartment and I got lost.
No.
And while I got off the tram to get onto a different tram to take me home, a middle-aged gentleman came up to me and I immediately went into attack mode and I was like going to kill him. And he was like, no, I was just going to tell you which tram to take to get back to Preston. And that was when I realized that in Australia, I didn't need to be afraid. Like, granted, take precautions, but I didn't need to be afraid of every man. But in America, I still am.
Yeah, I would say more so in big cities. That's a big problem that they have. Not so much around where I live, rural Indiana, but yeah, in big cities you hear a lot of stories that might not have went so good for
Ooh, I've been waiting for this one. So at the time, I was living in Germany and I had gotten food poisoning after traveling back from a country. And I was so sick, I was not eating, like not taking anything, and it had been like 4 or 5 days. It was
said after traveling back from the country. So she was living in Germany, so she go to America and then get food poisoning and get it on the way back?
really bad. I was too afraid to go to the hospital, one, because I was afraid I couldn't translate, but two, like, I just didn't want to deal with everything. But my friend said, no, we have to go. So I went. Tell me why we didn't have to wait on an emergency line. I was in the emergency room looking around. I was like, where do I sign in? Like, where's the line? Where are all the people? And they're like, no, you can go right in and go sit down. We'll be right with you. And I literally walked straight into the office, like straight in. And while I was struggling to explain what was going on, they brought in 5 different doctors
Oh
of each
wow.
different one. And it only took them 5 minutes to come each time when they realized they couldn't help me. It was somebody else they needed. And I didn't have to pay anything on top of that.
Yeah, that's certainly not something like going back to what I was saying earlier. That's quick service. Like, and it actually seems like the doctors care. Over here, it's like the doctors are grumpy. They don't seem like they just don't seem like they care, and they certainly don't care about your time because just a simple visit to the ER, it could take up to 3 or 4 hours. Even though they only talk to you for like maybe 10 minutes out of the whole time. Most of it, you're just waiting there.
I'm an American living abroad in Thailand. We've been living here for a year now. So we literally moved here when the pandemic started. My husband had a business trip right before the country closed to Singapore. He came back from Singapore with a fever. So
Uh-oh.
they transported him to a hospital. That hospital, however, didn't have the facilities for full-on quarantine, and so they transported him using an ambulance to another hospital where he was COVID tested and quarantined. Luckily, he tested negative, but he still
Good.
spent 2 days in the hospital and was transported by ambulance. And so I was thinking the cost was going to be so expensive. The overall cost of it was less than $300. We're back in the States. I know
Jeez.
it would have been thousands. It's just incredible to me that healthcare is affordable.
The ambulance ride alone would be about 4,000 here. It's craziness.
So I'm from LA and I moved to Singapore. And before coming here, I asked all my friends if I should bring anything like, a pepper spray just in case anything happens. And they were like, no, that's actually illegal. I don't
Oh.
think that they're allowed to have any kind of weapon. And I was like, what? We literally put them in our keychains as accessories. I was like, how do you defend yourself? They were like, from what? You don't have to. It's so safe. I was like, no way. So I Googled it, and no one is allowed to use greater force than necessary to defend themselves. What? The
Wow.
US can't ban guns, but Singapore can ban pepper sprays?
That's interesting because, yeah, there's a lot of women here that carry pepper spray for self-defense reasons.
So I didn't realize this until I moved abroad, but Americans have a very strange concept of freedom. Like, when you're growing up, you're always told that America is such an amazing place and,
Yep.
It's the land of the free, home of the brave, but,
Not so much.
I keep hearing these criticisms from people like, oh yeah, but America has the most freedom. Wow, yeah, freedom.
We really don't.
I mean, there may be a few exceptions or nuances, but in the UK, you're still free. That is the biggest lie that Americans are ever told, that there aren't other free places. I don't understand. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like the concept is kind of destroying American democracy. How ironic. They need to kind of understand that they need to work on things to make themselves better and more free for their citizens.
Especially if you're going to sit here and just push it down everybody's throats that we're the freest country in the world, because they do. That's what they teach you. America is just so free. And then another thing that gets me is you got the military that goes to another country to start a war to steal oil. When they get back, they're supposed to be seen as a national hero. You're supposed to act like they're on God tier, and everybody sees them in the store. If you see a military person in the store and stuff, And they're like, "Oh, well, thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for serving for our freedom." Now, if there's an American military serviceman watching me, I do respect what you guys do. I'm not talking bad about you, but in general, it just seems like that's the case. Like they're held up on this god tier level, and everybody's like, "Oh, thank you for for our freedom." What freedom did they give us? They went to another country to steal oil. Like that's, I mean, 9/11 was an inside job. Come on, guys. Not trying to get into conspiracy theories, but yeah.
So, just for a little context, I live in Latvia now, but when this happened to me, I was working in the UK as a bartender. And my coworkers and I were talking about gun violence in the US, and they were kind of making jokes like, "Oh, I'm surprised you graduated and you didn't get shot first," and stuff like that. And I guess I was trying to defend it, so I was saying, it's not as bad as the news makes it seem. I only know one school that had an active shooter and had to go into lockdown. And, for me, I only had one gun threat in high school, and it was just a threat, and one when I was in elementary school. And then my coworkers kind of looked at me like, "You what? And you think that's normal?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's not even that bad."
So I was
Yeah, that's and the funny thing is though, in other countries, like even though just a couple threats, a couple situations to them is like, whoa, that is insane. That is way too much, because it is. They have zero over there. Zero. Not just one or two or three, but just zero.
in Grenada for a couple of weeks, and every single day between 12 and 2, they would always close down. Everything would just close down. And I was just like, what is going on? And they were like, well, we need to go home and have lunch with our family, just enjoy, just relax a little bit.
Nice.
And that was when I realized every other country out here really understands the value of spending time with your loved ones. And
That's why I do YouTube, because I can stay here, spend time with my family, do my work on the computer here for you guys, my amazing viewers. And, it doesn't get me rich. It's about the same as maybe a minimum wage job, but it's enough. It's enough. I got food in my belly and I got a roof over my head. That's all I need. And by the way, that lady is dressed elaborately. Like that's some high class stuff right there. I like the I don't know what it's called, but the thing on her head, like that looks really cool.
Really understands the value of spending time with your loved ones and just actually taking a break, except America. America just teaches us to work, work, work for labor instead of actually living. So
Slaves, man. We're slaves here in America.
Your worth is not in labor. It's a luxury. Do what you want to do and be happy.
I do what I want to do and I be happy and I make my viewers happy. And if you're really happy, you'd hit that like button down there, huh? Hit subscribe.
Oh, I've got a couple. So I'm from Los Angeles and now I live in Austria. And basically when I first started working here, they were like, you get 25 days vacation, Fridays off early, and if you're sick, don't come into work. And I was just like, I was floored. Because in the US, you only get 10 days vacation and like 5 sick days, and you don't get 5 days off early. You better.
Yeah, and the 10 days vacation is not when you first start either. You got to get past your probationary period. Usually it's 90 days, 6 months, and some jobs is like a year. Like you have to work there a full year before you get the vacation time.
Work your ass until it's 9 p.m. On top of all of that, all my friends here have like 2 masters, 3 PhDs, etc., 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 because education here is actually free. Amazing. What an amazing concept.
Yeah.
In addition, I have yet to see a large homeless community out in the open here in Austria because the government actually offers some social support. A lot of social support. In
Not
LA,
like-
you have villages, streets, blocks full of homeless people because our government doesn't care about us.
Google Skid Row, Los Angeles. It's a very sad situation, but the homeless section is called Skid Row, and it is absolutely terrible.
And here, people like don't measure their worth off the car they drive.
Yeah, so yeah, the car thing. Everybody around here, it's all like, oh, well, your car sucks. You must suck. Oh, you got a nice car. You must be great.
Okay, so I live in New York now, but I used to live in England. And one time I was out at this bar with my friends and these 2 cops walked by. And one of my friends was like, oh, I wonder why there are cops out right now. And I looked at the cops and I got really confused. And I was like, those are cops? And my friends were like, yeah. And I was like, they don't have guns. And everyone was like, why would they have guns? They were like so aghast at that question. And I realized in that moment and learned that guns, there are so few guns in the UK and it's such not an issue that like the everyday cop does not carry a gun.
That's crazy.
And I was there are houses in America that have seen more guns in them than a fresh vegetable. It blew my fucking mind. I think about it all the time. I hate guns so much.
I do too.
I hate guns so much.
That's crazy because here are the cops, man. If you're going a little fast or like your headlights out and they have to pull you over, they'll come up to your car with their hand on their gun, ready to draw it and shoot you because they don't know if there's some bad guy because there's so many guns and stuff. They don't know if somebody in the car has a gun that they're going to pull on the cops. So they come up. Sometimes they got the gun out of their holster, but most of the time they don't. Most of the time they just have their hand on their gun, but they unclip the holster. That way they can pull it out real quick if they need to.
I was living in Italy and my friend needed an ambulance. We weren't going to get an ambulance because of the cost. And then we learned that in Italy, it's free for ambulances.
That's crazy.
We were literally like, wow, it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars for an ambulance.
I don't understand why they even charge that much. One of the videos I reacted to recently said that the ambulance was like $4,000. Why? It absolutely does not cost that much to operate that vehicle. If you are going to charge somebody, it should be like $30. Like seriously, it's for profit. It's just a take. It's just a take from people.
That is crazy. A human life is in fact more valuable than profit here. It is so sad that we have accepted if you are in a vulnerable health situation, it will cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and many people go into medical debt because of this. Where are our priorities?
Medical debt. I got about $10,000 in medical debt through over the years, and guess what? I'm not going to pay it. Sorry, but they ain't getting my money for that crap. These videos never cease to amaze me. That's about it, I guess. Drop your comments down below. If you have any experiences similar to this, let everybody know about it. Hit like, hit subscribe, and have a super fun, awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, bye.